Hey y'all, Harmony of Harmony's Kitchen here, and welcome to the second episode of Cooking in Harmony. I'm so excited that you all are here. I'm excited to be here. Thank y'all so much for showing my first episode so much love. I really appreciate it. I hope to just keep making these videos for you all and just hanging out and cooking some cool food. Today we're gonna be cooking something really dope, and that is cornbread croutons. I know, you might have never heard of them before, but here at Harmony's Kitchen, we like to be pretty innovative, all right? I'm gonna be throwing these inside of a soul food salad that I'll be making and putting on my new lunch menu. Better way to make a soul food salad than to have some cornbread croutons, right? Now, these are super cool because you can use these in about so many different things. You can put them in soups, you can put it inside chili, salads as I mentioned. You can just snack on them by itself. Here I have some maple glazed cornbread that we love to make for the business. And so it's kind of adding a nice Vermont flair to some soul food, all right? So without further ado, let's get started. While I show you how I make these cornbread croutons, we're also together gonna be tracing the history of cornbread, all right? Now, when I was reading on the history of cornbread, I thought I knew the history of cornbread, but you know, I was a little bit surprised about its origins. Not surprised as in like, I can't believe it, but like surprised as in, makes sense, but unexpected, all right? So what I'm gonna start doing is I'm just gonna be chopping these inside some cubes, and then we'll just learn together, all right, about the history of cornbread. So, cornbread, as we know it, is like, you know, a classic Southern dish. But cornbread's roots does not actually begin in the South. Cornbread originated with indigenous Americans, Native Americans. Indigenous folks, they were, quite known for cultivating corn or maize, as it was previously referred to. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even want to go into the difference between maize and corn. They're quite similar, but I think it's the way that it's been grown and modified over the years that kind of made it a little bit different. But basically, indigenous folks were known for cultivating corn. And so they actually would make, different variations of cornbread. And they were kind of known for making what was called ash cakes, where they would basically, really simple ingredients, they would ground cornmeal, add water and some salt, mix it together, and it would cook it over fire. That's how cornbread pretty much got started. And so when Europeans came to the Americas, they too adopted cornbread into their cuisines and lifestyle. But it was the Europeans that actually started to add like what we kind of do today, like buttermilk, or actually they were just adding milk and butter, a little sugar to their foods. Now that this is all cubed up, we're gonna add some oil and give it a good mix. You can use olive oil, vegetable oil, whichever your heart desires, all right? So it was actually the European colonizers that, colonists, that actually started to add butter and milk and such like that to their cornbread. I'm gonna add a little sprinkle of salt because we're gonna be putting this into a salad, and so I want it to be not super savory, but a little bit. I want us to have that sweet and savory feel. All right, so now we're just gonna mix it together. Now, corn actually made its way, because of the transatlantic slave trade, it actually made its way to Africa. And so Africans are actually using corn inside of, various dishes and kind of making their own versions of cornbread as well. So So we're just gonna give this a good mix, right? You don't want to like mix it too much or else this might get a little mushy, but that's what we have so far. And then you're just gonna grab a baking sheet and we're just gonna lay them all out. Got my little baking sheet here. I've already preheated my oven and that's going. And so let's keep it going. So the cornbread that we know today, right, was really done by enslaved Africans in the South. And so similar to the recipe that we have today, just a tad bit different, a little simpler, but a lot of enslaved folks used or made cornbread because it was simple, versatile, and essentially super duper important for survival. As we know, enslaved Africans weren't given the best of the crop, right? And so essentially what we know about the origins of soul food, right? Like they had to make do with what they had. And so that's what they did with cornbread. They made it into what we know as Johnny cakes, hot water cornbread. Have you ever heard of that? That'll be fun to make. And so on and so forth, right? Now, how did cornbread make its way up north? That was through the Great Migration. During the Great Migration, African Americans, were moving from the South and into urban communities such as Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, all those cool places, right? With them, they brought cornbread. Now, something that I thought was interesting was that the North is kind of known for making like a sweeter cornbread, like what we do here in the business. Previously we were doing honey glazed cornbread, and now we're doing maple glazed cornbread. Whereas in the South, they're kind of known for, doing more of like a savory cornbread, right? And in places like, Texas or places closer to Mexico, they actually adapted more of like, adding jalapenos or cheese to their cornbread. So it's interesting how different regions in the same continent, makes different cornbread. Now, we do know that though, that in the South that they do, some folks do eat cornbread with molasses. And so I thought that was interesting in that, we do cornbread with maple syrup, and so it's kind of like pretty cool how a lot of the things are pretty similar. Okay, I'm trying to like get all these itty bitty pieces in here as well. Isn't it interesting? The origins of cornbread started with indigenous folks to European colonizers / settlers to enslaved Africans that made it the way that we know it today. And through the Great Migration, making its way up here to the north so that we can enjoy it too. So now we're gonna put our cornbread in the oven for about 15 minutes or until it's golden brown. All right, so our cornbread's done. We're gonna pull it out the oven and see what it's given. Smells so good. Holy smokes. Look at these bad boys, y'all. Look at these croutons, y'all. Holy smokes. That's just so cool. Isn't that awesome? Let's give it a taste, yeah? Hear that crunch? They smell so good. Holy smokes. All right, let's see. I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm talking about mouthful. Why haven't I been doing this before? I like randomly. So, the reason why we're even making cornbread croutons, right? I like randomly had the thought one day, and I was like, cornbread croutons. It like came in my head and in my spirit. So I looked it up on Google, and I saw it was already a thing that people do. And I was like, I need to make some cornbread croutons. Like, come on now. And I did. It's so flipping good. I can't wait to put this in a salad. I cannot wait. Look at that beauty. What did we learn today? We learned that cornbread in its origins started with indigenous Americans. Then went and, European colonizers began to adapt cornbread as well to enslave Africans in the South who made cornbread what it is today, right? And so now today we have people like me, Harmony's Kitchen, who's furthering this classic dish and turning into cool creations like cornbread croutons. So different this is just so different than when cornbread first started. There's just so many cool things you can do to this amazing cuisine, this soul food staple. And I'm happy to kind of be a part of that ongoing tradition of cornbread and modifying cornbread and turning it into amazing, amazing food. So that's a wrap for this episode, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, I don't quite know what we're cooking yet. I have some ideas, but keep tuning in. Let's keep hanging out, and let's just keep learning and enjoying and spending time with each other, and most of all, cooking in harmony. All right. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment below. Did you know about the origins of cornbread? Were you surprised by some of the things I said today? Will you try this recipe of cornbread croutons? Or maybe let me know what you want me to cook next, all right? Until next time, friends. Bye. Sorry, I'm talking about mouthful.